So Kubisys, one of the challenges we have is, and we call it PBL, we provision environments based off your production. So production-based labs. Now the issue with that, the challenge for us is, it's really a new product category. Usually people look, understand what we do, which is my main objective, is have you come away understanding what we do. And the challenge that we have with that is, you often think, okay, how do I replace what I do today with what they do? And like the keynote speaker said the first day, you can continue to do that continuous improvement in your existing processes, but somewhere you're going to need to innovate. If you don't innovate, you're going to die. You just can't continue the process with all the changes you're coming. We have a very innovative product, so it's different then. And to really adopt us correctly, you may buy us for a particular problem you have today, to replace because you can't handle it traditionally, but to really adopt us, you'll grow and use us, and it'll change your organization, change your IT processes, improve your efficiencies, and really give you that DevOps approach. So who is Kubisys? We've actually been around for about 7 years. This is our only product. We introduced it at Interop 2010 in New York in October. Since then, we've really focused on the mid-market. The reason for that is because what we do is different. Has 1 foot in the operation side and 1 foot in the app side. We really need the C-level executive that really understands the vision of the company. And I know it's not true in this room, but in some companies, the ops team doesn't really get along with the apps team very well. There seems to be, these guys want to protect production. They don't like change. These people want rapid change. They want to impact the organization. So there's a natural conflict there. We've been fortunate. We've been selected some of the awards that are offered at these venues. We are up for the best hardware solution this go round, and I would appreciate your consideration for that vote. But I really show you this slide because most innovative emerging technology, and Gartner in 2013 selected us to the cool vendor list in the DevOps category. We're all about quick iterations. Let's spin up these environments, let's do what you have to do, let's get rid of them. So what do we do? Well, production, it really protects that. That's your real gold. That's our golden image, is your production. Then, of course, you're going to have QA and tests. And if you do any in-house development or work with third parties, what you would like is to have all these environments to be the same. Think how nice that would be. But where do you draw the line? How much resources, how much time, how much energy are you going to put in for each one of your patches, each one of your upgrades, each one of your development cycles? And companies struggle with that. And when do you cross your fingers and just send it into production? I know that doesn't happen here. It happens some places. So you take our hardware appliance, goes into your data center behind your firewalls. What it allows you to do is to point to your production through our UI, which I'll explain to you, and allows you to select a server or set of servers that you want to spin up in its own environment inside our appliance. And of course, you can use these environments for staging, QA, test, development, training, any place where having production data, having production infrastructure is important. We spin them up inside our box, and by complete, if you take that staging environment bubble on the top, think of that as a complete application stack. Web server, app server, database, Active Directory, maybe a couple dependencies. Inside that bubble, it'll have the same IP and MAC address, have the same data, have the same networking infrastructure as it does in production. And in our thin capture mode, and we have 2 modes, we can spin those up in 20 to 30 minutes. That's kind of like the magic trick. Once I explain to you how we do it, you can say, hey, just like the keynote speaker said, it's not new technology. We have 5 patents that are approved, but they're all in the automation of existing technologies. So I'd like to show this very brief slide rocket presentation, which actually we had on like our original website, but I think it does a really good job of giving you kind of a visual of what we do as soon as I can find where it is. So how do we do it? And this is the thin capture mode, and I will explain both our modes. Because until you understand how it works, it's kind of hard to move forward because you can't spin up those environments. VM spins up servers, we spin up network together environments, full data, full networking, doesn't matter whether it's physical or virtual in your production. We are talking about Windows applications. So let me put that big X in the pie. If it has a dependency outside the application that's non-Windows, that's fine. But what we capture is the Windows. So how does it work? There's 2 steps. The first step is called discovery. In our UI, you'll have a list of all the servers in your data center. You say, I want to discover these servers, and what that discovery does is really builds a library inside our UI of servers you're going to capture either now or in the future. So that's a one-time event, takes 2 or 3 minutes. Pretend that's your production. We're going to discover those 3 servers, an app, a DC, and a database. So we're going to just take our mouse, we're going to select them, and then we leverage WMI. And we go ahead and we program it and we catalog the information, number of CPUs, disk, network, IP, MAC, and we just store that away. That's all there is to discovery. Next step is capture. So we're going to take the same example. Now we're going to take from the discovered servers, we're going to go select the 3 we want to spin up in his own environment. We take a disk level snapshot leveraging VSS, shadow services. Stable's been around forever. We take that snapshot, and that snapshot stays on the host server. And then from our appliance, we read only the data that's required for the user test. Now you know when you test, you don't need all the data, but for you to have a good test environment, you have to copy over all the data. The reason why we can spin these up in 20 to 30 minutes is we don't copy data, not in the thin capture mode. We leave it there, we read only. There's virtually no impact at all on your production. There's no agent, no additional resources required. To the user experience, it's as if all the data is local. So we read off the data, we write in our appliance. We then thin provision virtual disk. Once again, doesn't matter whether it's physical or virtual in your environment. We P2V and V2V on the fly. We have the hardware information, so we inject that into it. We automated the spin up of a virtual switch, which mimics the networking. We have all that information. We install the hardware drivers. We boot it up, and you're off and running. So it's really, existing stable technology that we're just automating for you. Can your people do this? Sure, they can. Do they? Usually not. They don't have time, and then they have difficulty maintaining. And we've automated. So why would they want to? Is the question. So to give you an added visual, and I know I may sound redundant, but I think it's important you understand kind of the workflow. On the left there, that is where it says production view. If you could scroll down, all those icons are the servers you discovered. So once you discover them, they're there. Now you go with the mouse, you find the servers you want, you highlight them, you push a capture button. On the top there, thin capture bubble, a bubble appears. It starts as gray. When it turns orange, it means everything's networked. Everything you just saw on the previous slide rocket is up and running. And that usually takes 20 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, no more than 30, depending on the complexity. What's nice about that bubble is you can timestamp it, you can name it. You can turn that environment on, turn it off. You can archive it. That will represent the moment in time you captured it. The nice thing about that bubble, you can also give security rights. So if you're using outside consultants, using UAT testing, you can spin up that environment and give them access only to that bubble. So they'll have production-like data, production-like infrastructure, but they can't harm or touch or see anything else. If you clicked on that orange bubble, in the shadow environment there, those 10 servers are the servers that are running inside that bubble. So one way to get into that environment is simply, click on one of the servers in the shadow environment. A console button will come up. You go right into the console of that machine. You're working inside that bubble. Another way is simply to port forward into the environments through our appliance. Common way is also to capture your workstation inside the bubble. Then you can RDP forward from your workstation into your workstation inside the bubble and work from your workstation inside the bubble. Developers with the tools, that's usually the common way they do it. It's a very flexible solution We have customers that spin up VPN servers inside, terminal servers inside. I mentioned there were two modes. Thin capture is where we leave that snapshot on the host server. And those environments are really good up to about a week. Then because of the read-write and the changes in production, and customers, but it's meant for that DevOps, that quick iteration. Spin them up, do your work, get rid of them. Customers came to us and said, you know, we have long cycle testing. We have UAT testing that takes forever. We have development cycles that take months. So we came up with a feature called Safe Shadow. You can think of it as thick capture. The only difference there is we take that snapshot, we bring it into the box. Now, that takes more than 20 or 30 minutes, really depending on the amount of data. It could be a couple hours, could be overnight. But the nice thing about that feature is, once it's inside the box, then all resources are totally in. There's no readback anywhere. And once you have it thick captured in the appliance, you can then make thin captures of that thick capture in 20 to 30 minutes. Either the whole capture or subsets of that capture. An example of that is one of our customers, architectural engineering firm. They have a lot of data, but that's his core environment. So everything in that orange square is what was captured. And just going left to right, top to bottom, user workstation, his entire SharePoint, he had 2 ERP systems, his Exchange, a file server, and his entire Active Directory. What he did was he thick captured that inside the bubble. He set up automatic refreshes of the data weekly. And his entire staff could access that on their own, the thick capture, and take off any server, set of servers, one application, or the whole environment, depending on what their team was working on. So that really provided him a one-stop shopping for his team. So I like this slide because everybody understands the basic process. You're going to develop some code, you're gonna send it through, you're gonna test it, you're gonna QA. Eventually, you have to introduce it into production. All companies figure out how to do it, some better than others. Some spend a lot of money, some spend a little money, some cross their fingers more. Some things are critical, some things aren't. We say at the highest level, if you could get that deployment package, instead of going to production, go to a last mile staging that looks just like production, you spun it up 30 minutes ago, you would ensure of clean releases. Any problems there, it's probably not the code, it's probably the packaging, people different versions and things. You know it then, you throw it back over the fence. People understand that. A lot of them don't have that ability to keep that up to date today, but they get that. Well, if you think that's important, how about if your testing QA had those same environments to work with? What would that mean to their job? If you think that makes sense, how about your developers if they had the ability to develop in production-like? So what happens is that innovation that the keynote speaker was talking about, all of a sudden you realize I don't have to do it this. And then you start doing that DevOps kind of approach. And you start getting more deployments faster, quicker. You actually innovate and change what you do for the better. But today, people buy us to replace one of those things. Then after they get adopted and they get comfortable and they understand it, their own people drive it to whole new processes that make them more agile and better operation. Just a quick word on developers. They always want more environments. Ops always say you have enough. They can actually self-serve, get their own environments. They can put things into code repository, take them out. But it doesn't have to just be a subset of production, although production is our golden image. You can set up your own golden image with your op team, and you can go ahead and maintain that. It doesn't matter whether you have 1 developer or 50 developers. They can go in and self-serve themselves. Your team only has to maintain 1. So the primary use cases, again, they're on both sides of the fence, which actually makes this a challenging sale. If we go through to the POC process or additional conversations, we would want your ops side represented as well as your app side. Application side, of course, development, QA, UAT, the patches and the upgrades, training. Think how nice it'd be to train people on real production data and software. From the infrastructure side, these are the guys that normally, push back initially until they really get it. Because after all, they could do this. If they had enough time, focus, you gave them enough money, they could do this. But this really helps them. This is a great tool for them to help their customer, which is you, which is the app side, the business side. They have their own compliance, server patches, upgrade. Be nice to think you can do that during the day. You know, you just spin up the server, you open up the internet access, bring down the patch, throw it against, it looks good. You know you can do it in production. Oh. See, that's clearly a user problem. But really, for the infrastructure people, when they do those complex changes, Active Directory, Exchange, schema changes, things like that, what-if scenarios, it's almost impossible to do it traditionally. Our tool allows you to do that. In addition, if there's a problem in production, think how tough it is today to replicate that endeavor test. You know, it's like my wife, when the roof's leaking over here, she thinks it's a problem. Well, it could be way over here on the other side of the house. So what our solution allows you to do, it allows you to grab that problem in production, isolate it in its own bubble. They can beat the heck out of it and figure out what the problem is. It saves them a ton of time. I put that DR planning, testing, tuning because this is not a DR solution. Even though you keep these environments up for months, there's no way to push a button and publish anything out. We protect production at all ends. And security is becoming a bigger issue for all companies. There's no way to publish out of these environments. Whatever change control process you have in place, still hold. We simply provide you better, more accurate environments on demand. But if you have a DR plan, great way to test it. Do you really know how many servers it takes to get that critical app up and running? You know, have you really tried it? Do you have it sequenced correctly? You know, people write plans, but it's very difficult to actually try that plan unless you have to recover it, and that's not a great time to practice it. Today we only offer and sell one product. It's the X2500. It's 256 RAM, and it has 16 terabytes raw storage. It's about 10-12 usable, and that is 98% of our customers. That's more than enough. Because don't forget, you don't keep these things up and running, you get rid of them. So it's not like it's, that storage is more than enough. However, because it is flexible, we do have customers that have leveraged their own SAN storage. We have a partner that has a storage appliance that sits on top. That's usually when people really want to do some wild things. But once again, it depends on your use case. Today we sell the hardware, we sell 3 licensing models. The source server ties it to a particular set of servers. So if you have one application, that's all you care about, you want to make as many copies, that's probably the most cost effective. The 20 portable, for the most part for the mid-market, that seems to fit their needs. 20 running servers anytime, any servers, up to 20, but you can always turn one off and bring on another. So it doesn't really limit your workload. You just have to manage your work and your workers. The unlimited, you can point it anywhere, anytime, up to the capacity of the box. And our proof of concept will help determine exactly what that is. And our proof of concept is no cost and no obligation. Because people need to see it and they need to feel it work. We get that. But we want to do real work. We want to do something that addresses one of your problems. So hopefully post-POC, you can just continue getting the value from the solution. What does it cost? Depending on complexity in the licensing, the MSRP is anywhere from about 80K to 170K. There are discounts available. There are mid-market discounts, there's reference account discounts, there's terms discounts. But I want to give you some understanding of the cost. That's a one-time cost. There is 18% support and maintenance yearly. Once again, it's 18, that's a one-time cost. We have 4 customers here today at this event, this weekend, this last couple days. And so I wanted to just show you one use case from each. And if you know these individuals, please feel free to go find and talk to them. We've had them in a couple boardrooms. There's nobody, unfortunately, in this boardroom. Harrison Lewis, who I'm sure most of you are familiar, he's been involved. I believe he's on the board here. He has a very complex environment. He actually straddles a couple data centers. He has a big Dynamics AX. What he's done is, and I'll just briefly, he's captured his entire AX. He's captured his Active Directory. He's captured his SQL servers. He's also captured 5 or 6 terminal servers. And what that allows is, it allows all his groups, and there's about 10 of them on the outside of this bubble, access to that test environment, because everything runs through AX. He has 4 or 5 of these environments running at a time. So they can access it. They can either bring their application in and work with it in AX, or they can work with it as an endpoint and bring it to them. What he also does is he also develops real time in his AX in that environment. So he's here, please seek him out if you like. Mike Kelly, MVT Services. He's actually one of the nominees for the CIO of Excellence Award, and we're crossing our fingers there. This is one example. It's one of the applications. They're a smaller company, but they're trucking. So he has a Pegasus software that he has to receive from the host Pegasus, all the trucking, all the stops, all the depots, all the money, all the invoicing, all the payrolls, very critical to their business. They had a major upgrade. And of course, he didn't have a test environment for everything. So he used us for that test environment. And, you know, he captured the entire Pegasus, the Active Directory, you know, the client. And he had a SQL cluster. We support clusters also. So he captured that, and of course his SharePoint cluster. What happened in his upgrade in our bubble, he came across a critical error. It wasn't really a software upgrade, it's how his people were going to do it. They followed their processes. It would have crashed. It would have crashed his primary system, and it would have been out significant time. So he says it saved him $3 million, just by that not being out of business. And that was just one example, and he uses it for basically all his applications. Because like a lot of in the mid-market, you have enterprise issues, but you have mid-market budgets and mid-market resources. So unless you innovate, how are you going to keep up? You know, that's kind of what the keynote speaker was referring to. J.J. Hines, Chad Parsons, he didn't want to give me a picture, so good luck finding him. You have to look at his name tag, but he's here. And they're a flooring distributor, and it's largest privately owned. They got into the e-commerce business a little bit late, but last couple of years has been the highest business unit of all their flooring distribution centers. But with all that change came outages. In his case, the outages were 8-10 hours. He said they always seem to happen on the weekend. So they purchased us just for that one application. Since then, they've had 0 outages, and he thinks conservatively $3 million in lost revenue they avoided. Vero Pharma, Thomas is here. He has a new job because Vero Pharma was bought by Shire. And Shire is a very big organization. Tom's the guy with the big smile walking around. Just look for him. They're a pharmaceutical. And pharmaceuticals, they have a lot of applications, but they're small applications. But because they have all the compliance issues, they need test environments for each one. Every time a vendor comes saying, I got another patch, they need a test environment. So they had a lot of consultants supporting them, even though some of those were used very infrequently. So what he did was he purchased us, got rid of all those test environments, just reprovisioned some, just got rid of others. Got rid of all the test environments, got rid of all the consultants. So he went from 60K to 2020 between support and refreshes to 15K a month. Saved almost $800,000 in just hard costs, and that's year-over-year savings. Now, I wish I had known that before I sold it to him, but the point is, it's a great, if you have a lot of tests, you know, and probably they're not great ones, but you know, you spin them up, you keep them, you hang on to them. We can replace all those with one appliance. So when we talk about business values, cost reduction, we think is really third. Yeah, you're going to save money. You're going to save money with servers. Gartner says every server you have up and running costs you $7,000 to $9,000 a year, virtual, physical. So we're going to save money there. Licensing, storage, you know, heat, electricity, people, all that. That's cost. But it's really that time to market. Get that DevOps approach to your projects. Get them to the business end user sooner. Those complex changes, have those people solve it sooner. That's a value. But at the end of the day, if your developers can develop against production like data infrastructure, your QA tests have the same, and you can have a true last mile staging, it's the risk mitigation that we provide you is really our highest business value. And the fact that it will change how you do what you do. Now, we're not looking to sell it to you go in there and change everything you do. What we're asking is for an opportunity to address a pain point, and then we'll help support you as hopefully it grows and changes what you do, as your people can adopt it and can own it. So you saw the games here, so we always try to think and link something together with something. So don't be sorry, stay out of trouble, and with Kubisys, and we are up for the best hardware solution. That's very important to us, and I'm not afraid dancing for your vote, begging for your vote, I'll buy you a drink later for your vote. I can't give you a magic show with all the open buffet and everything else I heard went on last night. We would appreciate your consideration. It is important to us, and we think we have a great solution for the mid-market. And you can come visit us in booth 207. And we wore those pants in the past, and Kim voted for the ties this time, so maybe you're fortunate.